Good to see you. Welcome to the upper floor of the Menlo Park Labs, Thomas Edison's invention factory, as he used to call this place. Upstairs was his think tank, where Edison himself worked at the little desk over in the corner of the room. He would have anywhere from 6 to 22 of his best idea guys up here with him, coming up with the ideas like the tinfoil phonograph that they would send downstairs into the outlying buildings to get made. So downstairs, outlying buildings, nuts and bolts. Up here, ideas and concepts. Now everybody knows Thomas Edison for the light bulb. Some people still think he invented the light bulb. Of course, we know that somebody else came up with the idea. Edison made the light bulb work. Here in front of us, Thomas Edison's first patented invention. Patented when he was 21 years old. This is called the electric vote recording machine. It was also his first financial failure. You see, nobody bought it. For some reason, the politicians of the 1870s didn't want people to know exactly how the vote went. Go figure, right? Some things don't change that much over all the decades. Yeah. They wanted to be able to say we were raising our hands and we raised more hands than they did, or we were shouting yay and nay and we were louder than they were. And if anybody objected, it was your word against theirs. With this, everybody knew as soon as the vote happened exactly how it went, so the politicians weren't letting these be purchased and put into the voting precincts. But Thomas Edison, even at age 21, always used to say, I haven't failed, whether it sells or it doesn't sell. I haven't failed unless I fail to learn from my experience. Whether the experience is good or bad, if I'm learning, I'm progressing. With this, he learned you don't make what you think people want and then try to sell it to them. You find out what they want first. Make that, and they will buy it. Over here, one of his most successful inventions. Called the electric pen, I like to call this the world's first copying machine. It worked like this. Inside of the pen, there was no ink. There was a needle. Connected by wires to the two big batteries, when the operator hit the switch, the needle would start poking in and out hundreds of times a minute. Now, folks, this was originally invented in 1876 to support business applications. But in the early 1900s, about 1905, a tattoo artist got a hold of one of these and used it for their body art. Today, a variation of this is the accepted tool that almost all tattoo artists use. But originally invented for business, and this is how it worked. The operator would take a piece of waxed paper, and folks, guess who invented waxed paper? Thomas Edison. What a guy, huh? They would take a piece of waxed paper, put it into a frame similar to this where they had regular paper underneath. They would take the pen, turn on the machine, draw a picture, write out a document one time on the waxed paper. Setting the pen aside, they would ink up a roller, roll it across the waxed paper. The wax prevented the ink from going through and ruining all the paper underneath, but the hundreds of little holes allowed just enough ink to go through. You got a perfect copy of whatever picture, document, or letter you had been working on. Now, to a business, this was huge. Instead of paying 100 people to do one document each, or even 10 people, if you're paying them by the hour to do 10 pictures each, with this, one person could give you 100 copies in 1 hour. And every sheet lasted 1,000 to 1,500 copies. Every business in America wanted one of these. There was a 2-year waiting list to get one. I need to invent something like this. 1929. Henry Ford is ready to open Greenfield Village to the general public for the very first time. 1929 was also the 50th anniversary of the very first demonstration of electric lights by Thomas Edison in 1879 in Menlo Park, New Jersey. Henry Ford and Thomas Edison were best friends. Mr. Ford wanted to honor his best friend's greatest accomplishment with a huge party to go along with the opening of Greenfield Village. They called that party the Golden Lights Jubilee. Thomas Edison was 82 years old and living in New Jersey. He was invited to come to Dearborn to recreate that first demonstration of electric lights. He agreed. The President of the United States was coming. Orville Wright, one of the inventors of the airplane, was here. Madame Marie Curie, one of the greatest female scientists of all time, was here. Will Rogers, one of the greatest comedians of all time, came. Folks, anybody who was anybody in America at that time came to Dearborn for this event. Now, for weeks before the event occurred, they broadcast all across the United States over the radio and in the newspapers, telling people the event is going to happen on such and such a day at such and such a time, and they were asking people at home to listen in on their radios, turn off their lights at home, and at the appropriate moment, when Edison hit the switch to turn on the lights here in Dearborn, CBS News, who was set up right here where you folks are standing, CBS News was going to broadcast that out, ask people at home to turn their lights back on, and we were going to try to light up America. Ladies and gentlemen, that actually happened. The picture I'm about to show you was taken moments before Edison hit the switch. Thomas Edison is sitting in the chair at the age of 82. Can everyone see him? Yeah. Folks, he is sitting in this chair. This is the actual chair that you see in this picture that was taken in 1929. Now, standing next to Thomas Edison, Henry Ford. Standing next to Henry Ford, President Herbert Hoover. The guy over on this side of the picture, his name was Francis Yale. When Thomas Edison first opened the Menlo Park Labs in 1876, Francis Yale was 18 years old. He came to work for Edison as one of his very first laboratory assistants, sweeping up and taking out the trash. Now, still alive in 1929, he came to help with the demonstration. Moments after this picture was taken, they gave Edison the signal. He leaned over from the chair to the table, hit the switch, the lights came on. CBS News broadcast it out. All across America, people at home turned on their lights. We literally lit up America. Thomas Edison stood up out of that chair and walked over to this side of the room. Henry Ford was on this side of the room with two of his workers. Mr. Ford told the workers to nail the chair to the floor. It was never to be moved again. Ladies and gentlemen, if this building stands another 200 years, this chair will be right here 200 years from today. Today, when the light is right, you can see the nails that hold the chair to the floor. You can see that the floor underneath the chair is different than the floor throughout the rest of the upper level. That's because the rest of this flooring has been changed over the last 80 plus years. These are the actual boards that were underneath that chair on that day in 1929 when the great Thomas Edison stood up and walked away. And that, my friends, is the upper floor of the Menlo Park Labs. Thank you. I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Very, very good.